Hey guys, this is Jordan with Infinity Energy. This is our first podcast for the consumer. So we are coming at you from Rockland, California, and I am a VP of Sales with Infinity here. We're looking forward to hanging out with you guys and just talking through different topics over the coming weeks and months and getting you some consumer education. I'm a VP of sales, but not here to sell you anything. So looking forward to hanging out.
Yeah, I'm Marie. I'm Director of Legal Operations here at Infinity, and Jordan and I have kind of partnered up to bring this podcast. We've been asked to just kind of come together and talk about the things that are on our mind, on your mind. And so with that said, I'm sure there's a way for you to let us know, give us your feedback and kind of the topics you'd like to hear about. I'm not really going to come at it from a legal perspective, but I'm a consumer like everybody else. The things that are on your mind are on our mind, and we do a lot of bantering, and we thought, why not do it with you guys and see how it kind of takes off and what you guys think about it. And I know for me, everything that's on my mind right now is the money or lack thereof and the pain at the pump.
What?
For me? Well, I drive one.
You're a lawyer, aren't you? Like, you make so much money.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much we're making. Everybody's paying, it doesn't
Everybody
matter.
feels it.
Everybody's feeling it. And, I'm honestly looking at all my bills. Right now, my auto insurance, it's renewal time. Everybody, I don't know if you can relate.
Call Geico.
Well,
I've heard
everybody's.
you can save 15% or more
That's
on your
right.
car
Yeah,
insurance.
well, I want the little mascot guy. So yeah, if you can get your prices from a little rodent or a little whatever he is, reptile, it's got to be good. But so I'm shopping my insurance. My cell phone plan. There's some podcasts I listen to and people that promote different. They're sponsoring different cell phone companies.
You're not going with consumer cellular yet.
I
Right?
know. I
It's
haven't even
not.
heard of that one. Yeah. And since they're not paying for our podcast time yet, I'm not gonna push them yet here. But I'm literally shopping all the different things where I can save a couple dollars, and I started looking at all my bills, and and it's the one thing with solar and energy. It's whether it's the fuel that we're putting into our cars, or some of us don't, or charging our car. But, the pain of the electricity bill is definitely probably one of my highest utilities for sure, sans solar. So I started thinking about that, and Jordan and I started talking about that just kind of off topic one day. And we thought, if we're thinking about it, that means you're probably thinking about it too. And let's just have a roundtable discussion about it. Some of the things.
Yeah. So I started working in the solar industry about 9 years ago, and back then it was like energy was cheaper, right? Like we were selling various different types of solar electricity for whether it was a PPA or a lease, like just buy power how you're used to buying it, right, from the utility company. And back then it was like, man, it was less expensive, but it wasn't that much less expensive than what the utility company was charging. So it was like kind of a harder sell.
Yeah.
And coming from the sales perspective, like our job has actually gotten easier over the years because the utility company continues to increase their prices.
Yep.
And solar is still going up a little bit, but not as fast, right? And so it looks better and better. But yeah, it's crazy to think about the energy sector as a whole. Like, inflation has just gone crazy.
Yeah.
And so energy in general, whether it's gas you put in your car or, just supply chain, like all this stuff, different stuff that goes into the energy sector.
Yeah.
And it's up over 30%.
Yeah. And we have no control over it, right? I mean, they're talking, I'm listening to all these geopolitical experts, and I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it was dry, super dry conversation, and when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter what I know about it. At the end of the day, I still gotta fill up my car, and I still gotta, pay my bills. And I was looking at it thinking, all right, well, they're citing, domestic energy, policies, and then war abroad, and European crisis over there, and or the crisis in Europe, if you will. Just all of at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It translates to the same thing. I still need to put more money. I mean, everybody's got X amount of dollars.
Yep.
And if all I can do is take this amount of money and now I have to divvy it out a little bit more, it's got to come from somewhere. More's got to go into my tank, more's going to my utility company. And I think of myself as a free market capitalist. I don't think that's a dirty word, especially because I like to be able to shop my things. I mean, if I'm going to get gas at Costco versus Chevron, I mean, I'm pricing it right. We're shopping everything that we do. You can shop everything except your utilities, except for your energy, and that's really when I got involved in solar in 2015. That's really what drove me. It was, wait a minute. My garbage company, I don't know about yours, my garbage company, do you know that if I did not want to have my garbage picked up, that's fine, but you have to pay. I have to pay my garbage bill, my waste management bill, or they will send you to collections. And I had called them. I was a single mom raising kids, and I was in law enforcement. We had a dumpster, so I'm trying to save pennies, and I'm going to dump my garbage there. And they said, no, you don't have to put your trash out, but you will pay.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's otherwise known as extortion, and same with water. I have one water company, I have one waste management company, I have one utility company until solar came along. And that's really the thing that sold me. It was, wait a minute, now I have a choice. And it's all about choice, because competition drives price,
Yep.
Right? Service, quality, all of that. And the utilities have just gone. I was just telling Jordan right before we started shooting, I think it was 2015, PG&E territory, like I'm on a 3-tier, plan in PG&E.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think my lowest rate was like 14 cents a kilowatt, like you said. So it was tough, because Solar City, they were selling energy at like 15 cents a kilowatt.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a tough sell. So you really were, it was about green energy, it was about the environment, it was about price fixing and predictability of your energy costs and that sort of thing. And then now my energy is like 40 cents a kilowatt, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, back when I first started, it was a tiered system, right? So it was like you used a certain number of kilowatt hours and then it would get more expensive, right? So it was like this reverse Costco model, right?
Exactly.
The more you buy, the more expensive it gets.
Yep.
And so it was like one of those things where it was like kind of interesting to explain to the customers, but ultimately solar was always a better option.
Yeah.
But it was always the people that were using much more power that it clicked, right? Like they got it.
Right.
And now the way that people get it is they've switched everything over to, most utility companies are doing a time of use program, right? Where it's like, oh, you use power during this time and you're going to pay whatever for it.
Right.
And then but God forbid you use power at this time of the day because it's like 50 cents a kilowatt hour, right? And it's just crazy because it's like people don't necessarily have the ability to control when they're using power. Right. Like if I tell you can go home, but you can't turn on your AC when you get home, that sucks. Right?
Well, I may not be able to because utility might be turning off my power. I'm in that territory as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's windy outside.
Yeah.
You don't
it's
get
Tuesday.
Power. Yeah.
You should have no power right now. So it's not like you have to worry about that. So.
Yeah. So I love that. Solar obviously gives us options, right? And battery storage is another big one.
Huge.
Right? So just being able to use that power at the times of the day that you want to use that power rather than having the utility company dictate it for you.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, what do you think about the incentives, like the federal incentives and all of that? How is that driving? Because it's been dropping a little. They've sort of... It was supposed to keep dropping and it didn't because I think they were trying to hold on to some of those. So is that has that factored in the sales and installation? Is that driving some of it?
Yeah,
Or?
it's crazy because when I first started, it was like this really early adopter mentality of people that were going solar were the people that really love technology and they're at the forefront of change, and
Right.
so now it's I feel like the people that are going solar now are like people that have talked to all those early adopters
Yes.
that did it and
Yes.
realized that there was actually a better way and that they've
Yes.
already tested the waters for them.
It's funny you say that. I was in prepping for the show. I was reading this article on India, and India is like one of the fastest growing economies, there is. And there's a whole study that they did, and it doesn't really matter what country or culture or background you come from. People are what people are, and we all have these commonalities, and it's the consumer confidence, it's the peer, it's the social group, it's the what are others doing, and the information. So same thing, they had like these 6 factors that were driving those in India that were more apt to adopt solar renewable energies, and they're talking about the whole marketing and that sort of thing. But it really came down to that. It's the people that, well, you go first and let me know if you like it,
Yep.
and then I'll take a look at it,
Yeah.
and are you happy with it? And it really is. It's that relationship thing. Did it work out well for you? And that's where the referral, of course, stuff comes in. But yeah, it's huge having that, because that's your network right
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah, I always used to tell people that were hesitant, like, unfortunately, there's no way to just dip your toes in when
Yeah.
you're buying a solar system, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get it or you don't.
Yeah.
And so it's my job or it's our job to convince somebody. And I think that marketing in the solar industry has kind of gotten a bad rap, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's seen so many different ads that are like, oh, free solar,
Yeah.
or, and so naturally as a consumer, right, we kind of retract and we say, well, what's the catch?
Right.
Right.
Well,
Like,
in every
what's-
relationship, there's always your pursuer and your resistor, right?
Yep.
And so if you're pursuing, then obviously I need to resist.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it again, if it's too good to be true,
Right.
right,
Then most of the time it is.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
with solar, it's like, it's really not. Like, there is actually a way to go solar.
Now, are most people buying their systems, or
Yeah.
what do you? Okay, most people
Yeah.
are buying, because
Yep.
my daughter and I were having this conversation again as I was doing kind of a man on the street sort of informal, putting my finger on the pulse of, what do you know about solar, and have you thought about solar, and if you didn't go solar, why not? And just kind of my social network over the weekend. And I was asking my daughter about it, and she said, well, I think that people just don't, they just can't afford it, especially if it's so expensive. And I said, well, that's because they're thinking they can only buy it.
Right.
But you can put solar on your home
Yep.
without buying it, right? I mean, you can
Yeah.
just, like I was talking about the comparison of buying gasoline, you can just buy the energy at a cheaper rate,
Right.
without having to put that initial investment out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's
But
multiple
most
different
people
ways.
still buy.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can lease it.
Yeah.
Which is basically
How
the
come
same
that
kind of
has
thing.
a bad connotation? Why do people go ugh with lease? Like they
It's
have this.
usually-
I did a lot of lunch and learns with realtors and whatnot, because people would be in escrow and there's this existing system, but it's a lease, and all of a sudden it's got like this bad connotation. So do they just think of like a car lease and they had a bad experience? What is that?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, and just the idea of trying to sell your house with something attached to it that's
right.
not something you own, it's gotten kind of bad. It's just put a bad taste in people's mouths. And
Yeah.
so you hear stories about, I was selling my house, I was in escrow, and then we couldn't transfer the lease for
Right.
whatever reason. It's like, it's just
One bad
kind of
story.
weird, right? And so real estate agents kind of got to the point where they're like, oh, solar's great, but don't lease it.
Yeah.
And so it's like then trying to sell a house with a leased solar system, it's gotten kind of messy.
Yeah.
And real estate agents don't like it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's translated to buyers of homes not really loving the idea. And so the majority of our business is not like that.
Yeah.
But you still pay monthly, right? So
Right.
you don't have to have some big, like, you hear the word buy and it's like you automatically think that people are putting out $20,000 or $30,000 for a solar system, and
Right.
it's not like that,
Right.
You're still paying monthly, just like you pay your electricity bill, just a lower monthly payment than your already paying
Yeah.
to the utility company. So
Just
it's pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah, exactly.
And just getting people to understand that it's
just
not free
education.
solar.
Yeah.
You know, it's still costing you a monthly payment.
Right.
But
I mean,
less,
it's part of your existing budget anyway.
Right.
You're already paying.
You're
It's not
already
like
paying it.
when I buy a car, right? That's an additional payment. This
Right.
is the payment. This
Yep.
is simply moving the monies that were going this way, and now
It's a
it's
choice.
a little bit less. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
you're making the choice to switch from your utility company
Yeah.
over to the solar system that's on your roof.
And you have a choice.
And you're paying a monthly payment for it, but you're paying a lower monthly payment typically than what you're paying for your electricity bill already.
Right.
So it doesn't
Right.
not make sense.
You were talking about the home ownership and the sale of, and that reminded me. So my homes with solar are selling. What, speaking of inflation and right, and so of course everybody's noticed the inflation prices with homes, and but homes with solar sell faster than homes without solar. And I was looking at the appraisals of homes with solar, and they kind of they're unlike a pool in that people that are seeking out the solar, and they're in our area, in our demographic, and they're selling at about 4.5% to 5% higher with owned systems.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it is value. It's transferable value.
Yep.
And so you get the benefit. You place your energy bill on the counter when you're doing your open house, and if that doesn't sell your people, I don't know what will.
Yep.
So
yeah, and some of the loans that we have for solar, they're transferable. So it's like, even if you are going to sell your house, go ahead and take the lower monthly payment now and transfer the loan when you sell the home.
Okay.
It's not like a pool loan where somebody's like, wait, what the heck? Why am I going to take your pool loan when I buy your house?
Yeah.
Like, there are people that are willing to take over that loan because they know that ultimately it's still costing them less than what the utility bill would cost them otherwise. Right. So still a pretty cool feature.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know. I did not know that. Well, that's got me wondering. So, I mean, while we're talking about inflation and predictability, in fact, I just heard this morning on the radio they were talking about fuel prices not seeing them going down, thinking kind of this is it, and there's even projections of it getting to $7 a gallon.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're not feeling the pain yet, and who isn't, you will be. So, I mean, to that point, like, how does solar even protect us from, future inflation?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing is just the energy prices, right? So making the decision to go and get solar, it's really locking those prices in, because ultimately you're paying the same payment with a loan, right? When you buy solar, you're locking in that price. And so ultimately we design a solar system to produce the amount of power that you need. And we usually design it even a little bit more than what you need today, because we know,
cushion.
Yeah, we know that people will end up using a little bit more power over time.
Right.
And so once we've done that, once we've designed that system and you've purchased something, then you're not going to feel it when the price of energy goes up next time, right? Or not as much, right? And so it's just one of those things where you buy once and you don't have to buy again, and you don't have to feel it going up as much as everybody else. It's much more predictable.
Yeah,
so.
I know. I think, what is it, like, I know for PG&E, not to pick on PG&E, but PG&E, you jerks. I was looking at from like 1970s to 1960.
I wasn't around.
So,
I wasn't around. I'm
well,
not even close.
All right, here we go. I wasn't paying utility bills. Let me tell you that. But I was just looking at their historical rate increases, and it was like 7 cents a kilowatt. They literally had a 250% jump within 3 years.
Yep.
From the late 60s into the early 70s, and then they did the same thing from the 80s into the 90s. I mean, it's just been, look at your bill. Don't have to take my word for it. Look at your bill. I was looking at mine, like I said, from 2015, and then, not that I have old bills, but I knew, because that's actually the first. I'm like you, and you know who you are. I used to only look at my utility bill, or look at how much I owed, and I'd either cry or be happy, yell at the kids, or turn the lights off,
or you just put it on auto pay.
Yeah.
And not,
no, see, I
not
don't
really,
do that. That way I can yell at my children. So. turn the lights off, turn the TV off. Nobody's in
Yeah.
that room, But yeah, because if you do the auto pay, you just have no idea. So I refused. I'm okay with money going in automatically, just not coming out. But I started. It wasn't until I got into solar that I started actually looking at the tiered, and like you were saying, you use X amount of kilowatts, they bump you into the next tier.
Yeah.
And so most people aren't even, look at your bill. If you haven't looked at your bill, look at your bill and just go to like page 3 or whatever it is, and you'll see the tiers, and then you'll see the tears. You'll feel the pain. It's like, holy moly. I mean, that's how you really see what you're paying for your energy, as opposed to, and then they have the just because they can fees, right? I mean, you're paying for your energy, and then they have the because they can. Oh, the tax,
Yep.
and then because the distribution charges,
Yep.
and I call them the because they can fees, because they can.
What else do we buy that the more of it that we buy, the price goes up?
Nothing.
Like,
Yeah.
isn't that why we joined Costco or Sam's Club?
Oh, I love Costco.
Right?
I mean,
Like, we all hate that idea.
I have a problem. Yeah, but it's okay. I go to the meetings. So
So I did a thing like 3 months ago because I was driving a truck that I thought I needed, right? And I wasn't using it as much as I really could have.
yeah.
I was more the dude that was just like, oh, I need a truck. And when gas prices went crazy, and I was realizing that I was paying through the nose for, a truck that gets 15 miles a gallon, I went out and I bought a Tesla, which this is not financial advice, you guys.
No, we're giving you no financial advice.
Necessarily go out and buy a Tesla just because it doesn't have gas. But yeah, regardless, I get the luxury of charging at work, which is not something that a lot of people can say that they have that ability. But it's like, man, I get to fill up my gas tank by
while you're working.
Going to work and working for a company that has solar on the roof.
Yeah.
And
so how expensive is that? Because I drive a car that has a lot of sound and noise, and I think
my car sounds kind of like a spaceship when it's taking off.
Yeah, I messaged Elon. Elon, if you're listening, that was me. If you could just like make the Tesla with like, a V8 sound like that guttural, throat. Oh, did you go see Top Gun? Speaking of anything jets, fast motorcycles, boats, cars, like I'm that girl. But because I drive a car that takes, because I'm not quite jet fuel. Yeah. It may as well for the price it's costing me to drive, super close to work.
Yeah.
So I know nothing about them is where I'm going. So I, because I'm that sucker that's still, fueling up at the pump. But I do love my car. But so cost comparison, if you're filling up at work, and then like what's it costing you at home to do that, and like how.
So again, power costs different amounts during different times of the day with our utility company, right? So I'm PG&E as well, and so basically when you have an electric vehicle, you typically want to charge overnight. Yeah. So you plug it in when you get home from work or whatever, and then it is scheduled so that it doesn't charge until midnight. Okay. So midnight until whatever time your car is filled. Nice. And it's the lowest cost of power during those times of the day. Okay. So different utility companies are obviously going to have different prices for their power. Yeah. But ultimately, I have solar on my rooftop, and so I get
you've gotten rid of your
benefit of both worlds.
You're not. Yeah. So you're no longer going to the pump. Nice.
Except for our other vehicle, which takes diesel, and that's super expensive. Yeah. And that's the kid hauler.
Yeah. There's that. Yeah. So does your wife get to drive it?
She actually doesn't like driving it, surprisingly. Really? Yeah.
It's too fast?
I think it's more just that she feels like it's a nice, expensive vehicle, and she's kind of like, I don't
a little intimidated by it.
Yeah, like I don't want to hurt it.
Yeah.
So, and there's lots of, it's just very like futuristic. Yeah. And so there's like no instrument cluster or anything in front. Yeah. And look at a screen, and it's different. Yeah. For sure. So going from driving a regular car to that is like, okay, this is, I could see how switching back and forth would be weird.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
But yeah.
Cool.
So.
Good for you. Well, what else are we doing then? How else are we, so are we seeing, is inflation driving solar? Are people feeling the pain and they're recognizing?
I think probably more so than ever before. They're realizing, because inflation is an incremental thing, right?
Right.
Like it just goes up so small. And this last couple years,
Yeah.
I think we've all really felt it more than we ever have. And so I think that, one of our best years was the year that COVID happened, because it's like all of a sudden now everybody's at home. Right. And so they're realizing their power bills went up. And so they're like, man, what is going on? This is crazy. And again, I don't have control over when I'm using power because I've got to be at home working. Right. And so I'm plugging in a printer or a computer all the time that I never had plugged in. Or whatever.
Running the heat and air.
So maybe I'm not spending as much money on gas because I'm working from home now, but it's all going to my utility bill. And so people started looking for those opportunities to be able to switch that. So,
cool. It's an exciting time.
Yeah. A good time to be in the industry and a good time to buy solar, ultimately. So if you guys are interested in looking into solar or just having a conversation about it, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear feedback on this podcast.
Only the positive stuff. You can send the negative to Jordan.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for being a part of this.
Give us your feedback. Let us know what else you'd like to hear about, how we can, address your topics, what's on your mind.
Yep. Give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell too, because then you'll get notified.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
Subscribe. Bye.
Bye.